If you've tried all of the creams, the steroids, the natural creams, and you've tried the antihistamines, you've tried all the medications, maybe even some immune suppressants as well, but still caught in that cycle of flare-up after flare-up, this one's for you. And I'm going to be chatting about what doctors and dermatologists don't tell you about eczema, but just as a disclaimer, I have nothing against doctors and dermatologists. We need the right tool for the right job. So if you're looking for somebody to help heal your eczema from the inside out and look at that holistic approach, that's what I'm here for. If you have a broken arm or you need medical care, then that's what a doctor is for. The reality is as well is that with doctors, they only get a few hours of nutrition education. So for them, the whole system is set up to diagnose disease and use medications to treat that disease, which is great because it saves lives. But when we're looking at the body in a holistic manner and we're looking at how lifestyle, how the thoughts in our head, how what's happening in our gut, when we're looking at that whole body approach, that's when I can help. And so that's what we'll be chatting about today. What typically happens is people will go to the doctor, they'll write out a list of things. Okay, maybe it's food, I've been reading about histamine, maybe it has to do with the gut, and then they can go to the doctors and feel completely dismissed because it's in and out. But that's how the healthcare system is set up. So when we chat to clients, we have a full health history that we go through, and then we are looking at all the different body systems because eczema isn't just a skin condition. And this is what we need to be creating more of a conversation about, is that eczema is actually inflammation that's coming from within the body, and then it presents as rashes on the outside. Does that make sense? So then we need to be looking at, well, where is that inflammation coming from? So first off, what is inflammation? The way that I like to talk about it is like a ball of fire. It's actually your immune system protecting you. So when your immune system detects an invader, whether it's bacteria or a virus or some sort of foreign invader, it creates an inflammatory response. And then this ball of fire will go and kill that. It's a great protective mechanism. But the problem is when we have chronic inflammation and you have this hyperimmune response and all this inflammation, it's going out of control. And then what happens is that will eventually come out through your skin and present as rashes. When we think of inflammation, it's going to be heat, swelling, itchy, redness. Sound familiar? Sounds like rashes. Some of the medications that help treat eczema that doctors and dermatologists will prescribe, we know topical steroids, but that actually blocks inflammation. It's effective until it's not. And so a lot of times people will use it, but then all of a sudden it's not working anymore. You can see how, okay, well, that's blocking an inflammatory response and it's effective. Okay, so where is that inflammation coming from? And Cassie, as an example, she was using it for a lifetime and then it just stopped working. Also, if we think about antihistamines, well, antihistamines can be effective for some people, and there's no harm if you need to be using these. I don't have anything against them. But you want to be thinking, what's the mechanism? Why is that effective? With antihistamines, you're blocking the histamine response, which is part of the inflammatory response. So then we want to think, well, what's causing that histamine response? What's causing that inflammation, right? And then with immunosuppressants or even biologics, which are immunosuppressants, they're suppressing an immune response, which is inflammation. Okay, where is that inflammation coming from? Is that starting to make sense? So again, looking at that whole picture. And we want to really be digging deep into what's causing this inflammation. Then we want to be thinking long term, well, I don't always want to have to be dependent on all of these medications because they all have side effects. And whether the side effects are in the gut or with your adrenals or with your immune system, ideally, this is what you speak to your doctor about, is trying to taper off of those when you're addressing where is that inflammation coming from. So what causes inflammation? Well, there's multiple things that can cause inflammation. And this is what we address in the Love Your Skin program. It can be the food that you put in your mouth, it can be nutrient deficiencies, it can be overgrowth in the gut, it can be an overworked liver, hormone imbalances, and the big one, stress, anxiety. That is one of the biggest contributors to inflammation, and that can create neural inflammation as well in the brain. And of course, there's going to be different allergens and external triggers as well. There are hidden infections that can be a mold picture too. So there's all these different things that can be creating inflammation, but the key here isn't that you have to avoid it all. The key is to address what body systems need to be supported to help process the inflammation, and also understanding what your triggers are and what's causing it too. This is why zooming out and looking at the body as a whole is so important. It's not just taking a medication to suppress the inflammation inside the body, because it's still going to be there when you stop taking the meds. That's where a lot of the meds can have rebound effects as well. And it can be really frustrating when you've been taking steroids and you go to the doctor and you start talking to them about topical steroid withdrawal, and they're like, well, no, that doesn't exist. We've had so many clients getting so frustrated because they're like, you're just telling me to go back on it. It's a really frustrating conversation to have, but it's because it's just not recognized yet. But luckily in the UK, the NHS has actually recognized TSW as a condition, and they've actually put guidelines on safe ways to use topical steroids. So that's a really, really, really big step forward, but it is showing you that it is a thing. And again, it's not the doctor's fault. It's just not recognized yet with a lot of doctors and dermatologists in the US, Canada, Australia. So I'll give you a couple examples of some clients that we've spoken to in the Love Your Skin program. So Kinsey, she was popping antihistamines like Tic Tacs. And for her, she came into the program and she was on Dupixent and tried the steroids and had IgG testing. So when she came into the program, we looked at the body as a whole and we backtracked that there was a traumatic event that happened around when she had started getting her eczema flare-ups, which had snowballed into some food sensitivities as well, which wasn't the IgG food sensitivities. It was actually the wrong one. With her, we had to really be working on her gut, lifestyle, and liver function as well. We've also done some GI testing to be understanding what's happening inside the gut, because that's going to be the basis of your immune system. And another example is Mandy. She was using steroids by the bucket. For a lot of people, that's their safety blanket. But then her eczema came back with a vengeance. For her as well, she had some food sensitivities, and that busy mind, that mindset portion was a really big factor for her. And what we had to do is a lot of gut healing. So looking at all the overgrowth in her gut, really working on that mindset portion, which has been the biggest turning point in her journey, and then reintroducing foods. Because when you just eliminate these foods, you're creating nutrient deficiencies. So that was a really important one as well. And another example is Natalie. So with Natalie, she had been to 5 different naturopaths, done all the testing already, and again, been to the doctors and been prescribed a lot of the classic steroids. And she had a high allergy picture as well, and it was just, okay, this is something that you have to live with, right? You have IgE allergies. So with her, we did some oats tests and we looked at what was happening in her gut. And for the first time, she's had clear skin on her hands, which for her, she'd struggled for 11 years in her adult life, not being able to go into pools, even put hand sanitizer on. It was really, really difficult. So these are good examples of why looking at the whole body is really important, and understanding what's happening in the gut, what's happening in terms of mindset, that brain-skin connection, and really trying to get the body in a state to heal, then understanding what that symptom score is. So I hope that was helpful for you, because I understand what it's like to be caught in that cycle of going to the doctors, getting the same answers, and even going to naturopaths and nutritionists going on restricted diets. It's hard. And I was in that cycle for years and years. And I also have a lot of compassion, because with doctors, that's what they're taught, right? And the reason why I created the Love Your Skin program is so it can bridge the gaps that are missing between conventional and even alternative medicine as well. So if you would like some help understanding what's causing inflammation inside your body, what the root cause of your eczema is, if you're ready to make the changes in lifestyle, in your diet, understanding the thoughts in your head have a big impact as well. If you are ready to do the work and show up, apply for the Love Your Skin program. The link's in the comments below.